down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you've tuned in to the Savvy Radio Show. Yep, I'm excited because I had to chase down somebody I've been following and living vicariously through in my mind. Please welcome Jimmy Ogle. Let me tell you a couple quick things about this rock star real estate investor. We used to be sweet mates. We're still homies, but we don't get to connect as often because he's crushing it in California. If you really want to get to know Jimmy, he did over 50 transactions in 2 years, just decided overnight, I'm going to be in real estate. He's always been an entrepreneur, majority of his life. From, man, you had your hand in all kinds of businesses, from FedEx distribution to lubricants for guns. Is that right?
Gun oil, yes.
Yeah, gun oil, yeah. Well, just, get excited, homie, because you're on the Savvy Radio Show. And and also listen to episode 79. So you of a deal you did that was really interesting. So you left Oklahoma City. This is the place. I'm from California. You moved there. Tell me what happened. You got burned out, bounced out, and how are you? So tell me why Cali?
Well, it's a long story. We felt God just was putting something on our hearts to move for a while now. And, we went to a Tony Robbins event in March, and it was in California. And my wife and I just really fell in love with LA, and we were like, what if we moved here? And, that being an entrepreneur, and I had a lot of businesses that were, tying me to Oklahoma City, that didn't really sound realistic. But at the same time, just after, exiting one of those Tony Robbins events, it's like, you feel like on top of the world, we can do anything. And so I think it was just a challenge, like, can we do this? And a bunch of things just kind of fell into place where, we totally can do this. Let's do it. And also I was just kind of in a bad space at that time, from, basically all of 2017 up until we moved. Just I was struggling. I needed something to challenge me and just to wake myself up. I became an entrepreneur when I was 23, and that was probably 2017 was probably my worst year financially that we had. So just needed a wake up call, needed a challenge, and
that's cool. We would have a lot of conversations. And, about that when you were going through that, because it's interesting that you said that 2017 was rough, because in 2016 we did that interview, and, your one business of wholesaling was taking off and the market was great. And then things just kind of went awry. You had some conflicts with some of your partners, and it's kind of like a dull point. You're at the bottom, kind of, you're growing in your mind. And you decided to move to the most expensive place in the world. Were you scared financially? And what was that pivotal point that said, hey, I'm going to go do this? Do you remember that? Because I know for me, it would be scary to just pick up and go to the most expensive part of the world, or the country, actually.
Oh, yeah, I was scared as hell. I'm very deliberative, so I drove myself crazy up until the day we pulled out of Oklahoma City. I mean, I just every day, should we do this? Should we not? But finally, when that day that we left, we took off in the car and just felt, giddy at that point. It was exciting then. I mean, because there was no going back. But yeah, I mean, it was scary as hell. So we moved in August, and when we came back at Christmas, I still had a couple projects going. So I had a rehab we were just finishing up that was in a decent neighborhood. And, we took the family over there thinking okay, if we come back, should we move to this house? And, we haven't really told many people that, but so Christmas of 2017, we were thinking about coming back, and it's been 4 months. I think I did one deal in California in those 4 months. I'd still done a couple in Oklahoma City. but and then we come back from that trip back to California. And when we first moved here, we were living really close to the beach, and every morning I'd go run on the beach, and I just kind of stopped and just kind of yelled at God, like, you brought us here. Like, I'm not leaving. I know you have something for us here. And just kind of made up my mind, like, we were supposed to be here. And that month, I've got the best deal of my real estate career to this date. I mean, so it was just like a wake up call, like, I can do this in LA. And from that point on, I mean, last year, 2018 was my best year so far.
So cool. And this is where you're at now, right? You love California. You love the opportunity that's there.
Yeah, we're, 2018 was an awesome year. I mean, it's my first 12 months here, and we made multiple six figures, and this, we're pushing forward for bigger goals for this year. So we're loving it.
Cool. Now you left your portfolio here. Do you still, and you had an Airbnb, and I didn't really get your whole Airbnb story. So let's talk about that. Your residence, or one of your houses, you turned into it was your old home, right?
Yeah. So right before we left, we were on a mission to get debt free. And we actually did it right before we left too. So we had moved into, sold our Heritage Hills house, moved into a house in Northwest Oklahoma City, and just with the plans later on to turn that into a rental and move into something different. But so we were living there, and that's when we decided to move to California. And anyways, a month to the day before moving, I fell off a skateboard and broke my elbow. So I was like, how the hell am I going to move all this stuff? So by default, we started an Airbnb, and my wife was like, this isn't going to work in Oklahoma City. This is a big house, blah, blah, blah. And so I think we actually kind of found a good niche. I mean, we've got a kid's play set in the backyard or whatever, but it does amazing. I mean, it stays booked up.
And was that a learning process, and the fact that would you do more Airbnbs, or it was just good enough just to have that one?
So it's been, it's been a process figuring it out. At first it was just me trying to do it. And then that got really hard with, double checking the cleaners are doing what they're supposed to do and stuff. So then I recruited somebody to help me just to, check on it here and there, and then get a small percentage. So now that I have help, it's definitely a lot easier. But yeah, it's definitely crossed my mind to do more. I don't think any of my other rentals are really have quite the location that would make good. So I mean, cause I feel like it takes the right house to be a good Airbnb.
Yeah,
it just can't be anywhere.
So you mentioned you broke your ankle. I mean, you broke your elbow. So you guys just moved to California with just one vehicle, and that was it. And you started over from scratch, like furniture and whatever you could fit in your car. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, we took one small U-Haul, and we had a Suburban at that time, my wife's car. I left my car here and came back a month later for it. But yeah, so we had one small U-Haul that we took, basically kids' toys and stuff like that, things that we just couldn't get rid of. But for the most part, we went out there, and then once we get out there, we just hit up IKEA and, got a couple things, and just over time have built back up to everything. But right before we left, we had a couple big garage sales and sold everything. And, we went out there basically with nothing. I mean, I had got out of all my businesses in Oklahoma City, everything. I mean, we had, a little bit of income off of rentals, but we don't have many rentals, so it wasn't enough to live off of by any means. I mean, we just went out there with by faith.
That's so crazy. So you really went on faith. Like you had an idea though that you made money already as an entrepreneur, and you already had rentals. What was your way of thinking of how are you going to provide? Now you have nothing. I mean, you could always go back. And now you're trekking to an uncharted place. Did you know anyone there where you're moving to? Did you have a business connection, or did you have a source of income?
Yeah, so once we made the decision, that was probably in June. We're actually at Kanakuk in June when we finally decided, okay, let's do it. And so we were sitting out there on the hammocks at Kanakuk, and I booked a trip to LA by myself to come out here and double check exactly where we wanted to live again, and then secure an apartment, and also to talk to a couple of guys I knew through home investors that were out here. And so I got connected with another franchise, home investors franchise, that was really struggling. They were about to give up. They were weak where I'm strong at. And so we partnered up. I met them actually a couple of days later in Dallas at the Home Investors Convention, and we decided to work together. And then I was still traveling. When we first moved, the idea was to travel back to Oklahoma City twice a month, and continue doing my home investors franchise there as well, and buying rentals and stuff. So we did that at first until I got tired of traveling all the time. And then working with this other home investors franchise, like I said, I partnered with them. And yeah, so I mean, we definitely had a little bit of a plan, but we didn't know what it was going to turn into. I mean, I didn't know the LA market at all.
Yeah, I can't imagine. So to articulate, so you were on faith. You had a passion, desire for real estate because you did a really good job here in Oklahoma City. Obviously, 50 units within 24 months is pretty remarkable. That's like almost 2 a month in your wholesale business. And then so you kind of use that as a springboard. Then you connected with this other home investors group, and now you're working with them. What was it like when you started hitting on the streets? Was it like, what did it feel like? Were you scared? Like, was it nerve-wracking? I mean, obviously people weren't doing deals with you because they didn't know you, and the numbers are a lot bigger, I'm assuming. I mean, can you give us some perspective on that?
I mean, yeah, it was definitely hard to get used to the bigger numbers, but just, it's all it's all the same, just bigger numbers. It's just dealing with people. You're helping them with their situation. I mean, you're not buying their house. You're helping them with whatever situation they may be facing. And so it's all the same. Just got to get over that it's bigger numbers. And I actually, the first appointment I went on out here, I bought, but that ended up being our only one buy until the next year, which, 4 months later. But that was a little bit of an eye opener. I mean, I bought it at 65%. It didn't need a ton of repairs. And I actually feel like there's less competition here. I don't know if it's just because it's a bigger city, or if it's because there's a bigger barrier of entry because, the prices are larger. But I feel like I was running into a lot more competition in Oklahoma City than I ever do here.
Was the quality of the construction costs and quality of construction different, or is that the same? I've noticed I did a property in Florida, and it felt like a gold mine. I was paying the same cost for material, same cost for the labor, but my return, because that property was much greater in size and value, it was like I hit the gold mine when I found these workers. Is it like that there, or do they demand more money? And what's it like on the contracting side?
So for the most part, it's the same exact cost. We spend a little bit more just because 20 years ago in California, nobody had air conditioning. And so now everybody's wanting air conditioning in their houses. But so we always have to add, heat and air unit in the house. But if it wasn't for that, my cost on flipping a house out here, it's exactly the same as it was in Oklahoma City.
Cool.
So usually we're spending, $5,000 to $10,000 more per house just because we're, having to add a heat and air unit.
So what's your strategies now? Are you just flipping houses, or are you trying to do buy and hold, or what's your goals or strategies now that you're there and you're kind of settled in? You've been in there for over a year now. Is that right? Yeah,
it's been about 18 months. So for this year, we plan on doing more assignments than rehabs. We did more rehabs than assignments last year, but the market's turning, and so we don't want to get caught in that. And we're going to do a lot more assignments. There's still people buying like crazy, so we're just going to try to assign everything. We'll probably do average one rehab a month. But the rest will be assignments. Like our goal for the year is 36 deals. And so we'll assign the majority of those.
What's your average acquisition range? Not profit, but are you taking down $400,000 houses, $500,000 houses? Give us a perspective on that.
Anywhere between 550 and 700 is per average ARV that we're looking at.
And then the margins are the same. Like you're trying to find them for 50 or 60%, put 10% in it and then try to sell it for 80 or 90, or give us some perspective on that side of things.
So we always shoot for, 65% minus repairs. But that's the thing out here is that it is bigger numbers. So you can buy a little higher and still make a good profit. I mean, your percentage isn't as great, obviously, but you're still making a decent sized profit. So where we used to buy up to 80%, we're reeling that back to more like 75% now. Cause like I said, it's softening. I mean, when I first came out here, it would take a week to sell a freshly remodeled house. Now it's taken, 2 to 3 months. So, I mean, it was just like you ran into a brick wall. I mean, up until I'd say September last year, we were just turning them. And then all of a sudden, we had one that I bought in September, and we literally just sold it last week. It finally closed. So
nerve-wracking because it's changing. I mean, is the markets faster there, or did you feel that it was faster in Oklahoma? Like compare the two markets, because now you have experience in both. You had a good 2-3 years in Oklahoma City. Now you have almost 2 years in California. Do you feel like they're the same speed? Is it faster there, slower there? Try to compare the two.
Well, in Oklahoma, it's harder to get a deal and easy to close once you have it. And then, it takes a month or two to sell a house in Oklahoma City. That's normal. I mean, not a wholesale, but, a rehab house. Whereas in LA, I feel like it's easier to get a deal, but harder to get it closed. There's run into so many more legal issues out here, or fraud, or you name it. So it's harder to get them closed out here. But then, at least up until last fall, I mean, if you got your crew right on it, I mean, you could be in and out of a house from time of contract to closing escrow in 30 or 45 days.
Wow. Now, I know that you're a big fan of banks like I am. We banked at the same bank together. Is it the banking climate there? What's funding like there? I'm assuming there's so much money in California. Is it like I envision people, like it's not hard to find money? What's that like, the banking life there?
Well, I haven't used a bank since we've been here. It's fortunate my partners have some cash, and then we also have some private investors that we've started acquiring the last few months. So I haven't used any banks here. I have gotten set up with someone. I've got an approved line, but I just haven't used them yet. But we haven't bought any rental properties here. It's definitely and we're wanting to, but it's just too high right now where it doesn't make sense. So as soon as it starts coming down, we'll start holding properties. And then once it goes back up, you sell them. I feel like the rental game in LA is a little bit different than Oklahoma City. In Oklahoma City, it's for cash flow. In LA, you're hoping for appreciation in 5 or 10 years and sell it.
Yeah, that's why I'm not there, homeboy. Like that drives me crazy. It's like in my mind, you're speculative, and I think that's smart. So you're sticking to the focus game of getting it 65%, either assigning the contract or fixing it up and getting a return, and the market's hot enough that it will happen. Is that kind of what you're doing?
Yeah, and it's a lot easier to assign properties here too. There's you got a lot of real estate trusts and stuff that buy here, and a couple of those, I mean, they'll buy it at 82%. So, you can make some pretty good assignments when you can sell them at 82%.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's almost the same numbers here. I'm seeing investors pay 90% for deals and they're happy. They just want to get into real estate. I wonder if that's just a culture all over. Is that a news thing? Is that because of Donald Trump's the president? I don't know. But, as a real investor, you've got to make money. I mean, that's the goal, or you're not, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've said for a long time that I feel like the next crash is going to be caused by investors buying too high that get, over their head.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is a lot of that.
What about, Airbnb is still hot. It's so funny in Oklahoma, they're just now getting with new regulations and a bunch of drama. What's it like there? Have you thought about Airbnb? Are investors buying for Airbnb, or what's your take on that?
I haven't personally met anyone that owns any, or at least that I know of. I don't think I would mess with it out here just because the cost is so high. If you didn't rent it out, I mean, that could really hurt. But also I've heard grumblings. I don't follow it, but I've heard that just because there's a housing shortage here, that's why rent and everything is so high, because there's so many people looking for housing. But I've heard that they were going to try to start banning places like Airbnb because landlords will rent them out Airbnb instead of a normal rental. That takes that rental away from the market.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so I follow you on Facebook sometimes, and I noticed that you became a realtor. What made you decide to do that, and what's that like?
I had always planned on getting my real estate license. I actually, when I was just younger, I went to real estate school, took the test, and then got denied for the background check because I was young and dumb and had a DUI at that time. And then I just always told myself that I'd get it. And even once I, when I got into real estate investing, I always said I'm going to get my license, but I was just always too busy. I mean, I had multiple businesses, had kids, whatever. And then when we first moved out here, I mean, I just didn't have a whole lot going on, so I had some time on my hands, and I just finally went and did it. So, I mean, it was always kind of the plan. Not that I planned on being a realtor, and I still don't plan that being my full time. Okay, but at the same time, I mean, I go through a ton of leads that, if I can't make them work to buy them, then maybe I can turn them into listings. So, so that's kind of the plan. I'm definitely on the early stages of it. I just hired a buyer's agent that's working with me. I plan to hire an admin. So it's really just kind of a side business that I'm building. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I mean, last time we talked, I had a couple of businesses, and we got out of everything, all of our businesses, when we moved to California. And so, we're crazy. We got 3 kids, and I don't like to be idle. I like to be busy. So it's just another business, really.
So, that was my question. As an entrepreneur, are you feel like you're just resting and relaxing? I mean, you had a very intense life before. You had your hands in logistics, real estate, the lubrication deal, the oil bill. Do you miss that hub and bub, or are you enjoying the serene view of the beach? Like, tell me, would you ever go back into being like an intense entrepreneur like you were before?
Yeah, I mean, it's the plan actually to build up more businesses, but I'll definitely be a lot more selective on businesses that eat up too much of your time. Like the logistics business, that was taking a lot of time, and it's dependent on employees. If your employees don't show, you're not making money. So I want easier businesses to train. If people quit, businesses that don't take as much of your time, are not as capital intensive, and logistics is the opposite of all that. So
yeah. Okay, cool. So
yeah, I mean, it's always the plan to build more businesses. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you'll have that entrepreneur bug for life. Okay. Now here's an off the wall question. Do you think anyone can make it in California? I'm not trying to make you think arrogantly, but I mean, a lot of people dream of living in California. I know in Oklahoma, man, you can work at McDonald's and you can pay for an apartment, right? You can work 40 hours at McDonald's at $10 an hour or Walmart. You can survive. Could anyone make it in California, or is it you have to be real intentional about it? I mean, life is not easy, but did it seem easy for you? And what would you shed some light on someone that, wants to follow your bravery and getting up and just moving?
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel arrogant saying it, but I don't know that, everybody could. I mean, it depends on your desire level. And I forget who says it, but you hear the quote about, your temperature gauge. Like if you're a $100,000 a year person, if you start making 150,000, you're going to find a way to kind of screw it up and come back down to 100. Same thing. If you're only making 50,000, you survive, you're going to find a way to get back to 100. Well, my thermometer was set. So when we came out here, I mean, it was, like, oh crap, we've got to get things going and get back to that. And so, I mean, if you're, like you said, working at McDonald's, you come out here, I mean, I go to a lot of houses and I mean, there'll be 10 people living there.
That's why
but you run into a lot of the people that work like in the service industry and stuff. I mean, they have roommates and stuff like that. So, I mean, starting a family like that, I mean, would be tough. So, I mean, it definitely, I think, takes the right individual. I mean,
cool.
It kind of stinks. And that's definitely, you hear talk about it all the time about the cost of living out here. I mean, something we hear like in our area is like, parents will talk about their, they've got adult kids or whatever, went off to college and they want to move home, but they can't afford it, so things like that.
Okay, good. I'm just fascinated. I haven't been there since 1992, and I knew that I couldn't make it on my own, and I'd have a bunch of roommates, and it would feel like a struggle here in Oklahoma, for me. Now it would be different now because I'm older and wiser, and definitely love to invest. I wonder what it would like to be just to drop off in the middle of California and try to make it. I'm just impressed that you did it, man. I mean, that you did it. You mean you set a goal to move and enjoy life, and you did it. I mean, congratulations on that. What goals do you have now? Like, what does it look like 3-5 years? I mean, obviously you're not coming back. I mean, you'll still invest here or not. And what goals do you have? What do you see yourself doing, being, and in the near future or 5 years out? How far is your vision?
I try not to vision too far out because, I mean, that's so much stuff, even looking back in my life, I mean, every couple of years, I mean, we've kind of made a dramatic change, but I do have, like, for the year, like, I have a goal of making $500,000 this year. And,
Nice.
To do that, I'm going to have to do 36 deals in LA, investment deals. I want to buy 12 more rental properties in Oklahoma City. I want to have 24 realtor transactions. And this isn't a financial goal. I mean, it kind of adds up to it, but then, and also read 24 books this year. So that's kind of my goals. I'm sitting here looking at them on my whiteboard as I'm telling them to you.
Cool.
But so, I mean, the biggest stretch for us is trying to make $500,000 this year. I mean, it's a stretch. I definitely see it on paper where, like, I can do this, but then, I mean, it's a lot more money than I've ever made. So, I'm definitely pushing myself, but I think I can do it. I know I can do it.
No, it's cool. I mean, I think you can do anything. I mean, you overcame a barrier of dropping everything and moving forward. I mean, I have a stretch goal this year. It's only 300,000 for Savvy, but I have no idea how I'm going to do it. You sound like you're intentional about it, which is incredible. I mean, you got to hit the pavement. And so what is it like on a regular basis? Walk us through a day in the life of Jimmy Ogle.
Well, I get up about 4:30 in the morning. I meditate, read a little bit, go to the gym, come back home, get cleaned up, spend a couple hours with the kids, walk them to school with my wife. We live really close to the school, so we just walk to school. And then I come home, then I go to the office, spend my morning doing follow-ups or, just office work. And then in the afternoons when I go and do appointments. and I'm usually home no later than 5 o'clock every night, unless I had an appointment that can only meet in the evening, which is few and far between. And then, I mean, we're very intentional with our family time. I mean, that's what's most important. You know, growing up, my parents weren't around very often, so I'm not going to be that parent. I want to be around my kids growing up.
Cool, man.
So that's kind of my typical day.
That's
and
awesome.
Earlier you asked if I'm still investing in Oklahoma City, and I definitely am. Actually, I'm coming back. I'm flying to Oklahoma City this evening to go check on the house we just remodeled. And I just got 2 contracts yesterday. So send me your deals. I want to buy more houses in Oklahoma City.
Don't we all, my friend? Don't we all? Well, Jimmy, it's a pleasure just catching up with you. I think a lot of people are inspired by you. Continue to live the life that by design. You know, I learned that from another wholesaler. Live your life by design, Jim Rohn, and just keep pushing forward. Is there any advice would you give anyone now, or something that you've learned in this last 18 months, something that's really resonated with you, that a word of encouragement to keep other investors going?
As far as encouragement, like if there's something you want to do, just do it. Like with us, we'd always kind of dreamed about moving somewhere. And so our thing was, we can come home if it doesn't work out. We can always come back. And so I'm glad we did, because if we didn't come, we would always have the thought, well, what if we would have done that? And that's not how I want to live my life. I want to live, you know, without having those regrets. And, so that's the biggest thing. Like, if you want to do something, just go for it. I mean, it's not, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Right. You can always rent one of my houses. I was just playing.
Yeah.
Imagine if I was. Actually, I was your landlord for about a year. I'm just playing at the office. Anyway, man, it's a pleasure. Hopefully, I'll see you sometime in Oklahoma City. We know that we miss you. Your homeboy JJ does, and make sure you love on him. And it's been a great ride to get to know you. Can't wait. I'm going to keep following up with you in 5 years, 3 years, and maybe even a year from now. Just can't wait. And hopefully, you crush that 500K goal. I'm assuming at those numbers you can, you know? But it will be worth the effort. All right, man.
For sure.
Appreciate your time, bud. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Investor Weekend is not far off, with over 10 information sessions to increase your portfolio. Log on to www.investorweekend.com. Whether you are a seasoned investor or never purchased a property before, you don't want to miss the Investor Weekend. Join us for a powerful, knowledge-packed weekend with over 10 informational sessions that are bound to enlarge your real estate investments. You will hear from the best national and local real estate investors that will share practical and relevant experiences with you, the investor. There will be several networking sessions to connect with other like-minded people for potential funding, partnerships, and yes, hot deals. Go to www.investorweekend.com. Did you know we meet once a month for the Landlord Lunch meeting? The third Wednesday of every month. Go to landlordlunch.com.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.